Alright guys, today I want to give you 3 tips on, major tips on how to improve your diet, okay? When I say major tips, I'm saying, we can tweak diets a lot, we can do all these little things that do make a difference, but usually most of the beneficial effects that we're getting from dietary changes are coming from these 3 changes. So whether you're already eating healthy or whether you're not, making sure that you are emphasizing these 3 factors that I'm going to talk about in today's video is going to be key if you want to be healthy and eat healthy. So let's get into it. First thing you can do, switch from an animal food based diet to a plant-based diet. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go vegan, although I think you should from ethical reasons, I think you should from environmental reasons, and I think you should from health reasons. But we're just talking about that general shift from animal foods towards plant foods, right? More fiber, more phytonutrients, more of those minerals and vitamins, all that good stuff that's in the fruits and vegetables, the foods to which we are biologically adapted to eating as a species, as a frugivore tropical species. More plants, less cholesterol, less saturated fat, less animal protein. Just reducing the amount of animal foods and shifting towards plant foods will make a huge difference in your life. And the more, the better, in my opinion. That's the first one. The second one is to move from a refined food diet towards a whole food diet, okay? So when we say refined foods, we're talking about refined oils, refined sugars, we're talking about candy, we're talking about processed foods and packages, half made, half baked, or whatever you want to call it, just processed foods. I'm not saying not eat processed foods at all. I mean, a little bit of oil and a little bit of sugar, not a big deal if you're otherwise eating a whole foods diet, but shifting your diets towards more whole foods, right? Whole foods meaning foods in their natural state, either eaten raw, or we can also accept the idea of cooking it yourself, but preparing it from scratch, where you're actually looking at it and it's like, this is a sweet potato rather than a powder, Moving towards a whole food diet is also the way to go. But as I said, if your diet is full of plenty of whole foods and you're eating a high calorie diet, so you're getting tons of nutrients, it doesn't matter if you're also adding in some sugar and some oil, a little bit, and protein powder or whatever other little refined things that you're having in your life. That's fine, as long as it's not predominating. So refined to whole. Third and last point is something that actually is kind of interesting, because if you're doing the 2 first, if you're moving from an animal food diet to a plant-based diet, and you're moving from refined to whole food, you're probably already doing the third aspect. And the third aspect is to go from a high fat diet, or really a moderate fat diet, a moderate carbohydrate diet, basically a standard diet, towards a high carb diet. And what I mean by that is, most people on a standard diet will eat 40% of their calories coming from fat, another 40 or 50% of their calories coming from carbohydrates, and a little bit of protein. And especially if a lot of that fat and a lot of that carbohydrate is coming just from refined sources, that's not really good either, as I spoke about earlier. So we want to move from that sort of macronutrient breakdown towards something more like 80-10-10 or 70-15-15. And what I mean by that is 70 to 80% of your calories should be coming from carbohydrates, 10 to 15% of it coming from fat, 10 to 15% of it coming from protein. That's my personal recommendation. So, but the general idea is to move from a standard diet towards a diet that's higher in carbohydrate and lower in fat. And that's naturally done if you're eating whole plant foods, usually. If you're eating whole plant foods, you will be getting more carbohydrates, because all of those starches, the grains, the legumes, the potatoes, the fruits, they're high in carbohydrate. High carb, plant-based, whole food, right? I don't know if you heard about the whole food plant-based diet. That's the way to go, in my opinion, in general terms. We can do a lot of things to tweak it, right? Little tweaks here and there. Optimization. I personally favor fruits over grains, for example. But there's all of these little tweaks you can do. But if you take a person, or maybe you're that person, and you go from just taking out the animal products and going towards a plant-based diet, even if you're eating a little bit of animal foods, from a health perspective, that is probably still fine as long as it's predominantly plant-based. And taking that refined food and reducing it and focusing on whole foods, and ultimately upping that carbohydrate intake, reducing the fat intake. If you do those three things, I believe that it will make a huge difference in your life in terms of your health, your nutrition, and your life quality. So that's what I recommend. If you want to talk more about it, maybe go in depth, maybe customize a diet plan for you or whatever. I do offer health coaching via Skype. So on my website, sweetnaturalliving.com, you can check that out, as well as, of course, checking me out on Instagram and other platforms. There's several links in the description. Go check them out. That's all for today. High carb, whole food, plant-based. Go for it.